From WNIJ studios on the campus of Northern Illinois University, this is Sessions from Studio A. I'm Spencer Tritt, welcoming Rockford's Micky Torpedo back to the show. If you've been following Sessions from Studio A, you'll remember Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs we featured earlier this year. It's a unique project in collaboration with the Mississippi Audubon Society, celebrating birds of our region, many of which are endangered. Birdsongs Volume 2 is officially out, and this hour we'll talk with Micky Torpedo about the project, and we'll hear a special live performance of the album recorded at Severson-Dell's Nature Center, the perfect backdrop for this project focusing on nature, conservation, and birds. It's Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs Volume 2, this hour on Sessions from Studio A. Welcome to Sessions from Studio A. I'm Spencer Tritt, and we're back with multi-instrumentalist and producer Micky Torpedo to celebrate the release of Birdsongs Volume 2. We'll hear the album performed live at Severson-Dell's Nature Center, and later on I'll talk with Micky Torpedo at his studio in Rockford. But first, as always, let's get right into the music. It's Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs Volume 2, this hour on Sessions from Studio A.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to what has turned out to be a lovely evening. We were crossing our fingers there for most of the afternoon. I'm Ann Wasser. I'm actually the director here at Severson-Dell's Nature Center, and I am pleased to see such a packed house tonight. Thank you so much for coming out to celebrate Mississippi Audubon and Micky and the entire crew of musicians that are out here and the beautiful music that you will hear tonight. Have a lovely evening, enjoy, and we're so excited for the show. So I will turn it back over to Micky and the crew.
This is Sessions from Studio A, outside of the studio, over at a different studio, Underground Squirrel Studio in Rockford, here with Micky Torpedo. And folks may have heard Birdsongs Volume 1 a month or two ago, and we are here because Birdsongs Volume 2 is officially out there in the world. And we heard a great concert from you over at Severson Nature Center, too. So, Micky, thanks again for talking with us for round 2 of Birdsongs.
Well, thank you, Spencer.
For people who didn't catch the last episode, just briefly tell us about this project and how it got started.
Sure. So this project came about around 2020 when it was actually a student of mine, longtime guitar student of mine. Her mom was the president of Sinisippi Audubon. I don't think she was president at the time, but she was part of the Sinisippi Audubon Society, originally based out of Rockford here. And I released a series of instrumental albums, and she bought them all and really liked them. That was during the pandemic. But early into that, she had suggested that I put some bird sounds on there. She's like, what about nature sounds? And then all of a sudden I realized she was with the Sinisippi Audubon, and we talked more, and I said, well, let's write some music. So her name is Jennifer Kuroda, and she's now the president of Sinisippi Audubon. And she also she was kind of she spearheaded the murals project in Rockford. So if you've driven around Rockford and you see the birds around, that's her. She's very passionate about connecting arts and conservation and educating and pulling in more ears and eyes onto conservation through arts.
And the first record is Sounds of the Mississippi Flyway. This next one is Sounds of the Bell Bowl Prairie. I'm actually not familiar with the Bell Bowl Prairie, so tell us what that is and why you chose that location for this second album.
Sure. Well, around 2020 when I think we released that first album not long after that, but there was in local news there was kind of a battle over some land that belongs to the Rockford Airport, or I guess Rockford, Chicago, whatever they call it now. And so this is a pretty rare gravel prairie land, and there's lots of various species that are specific to that type of land. And I believe it's owned by whoever owns the airport, so it's not necessarily owned by the state, but it is maintained by, or has been, I believe, since the 50s, from folks at the Natural Land Institute and other entities that are help try to protect it. And there's always been kind of symbiotic relationship of people maintaining it and making sure that it's a safe place and a spot for these creatures to thrive and these species to live and not be touched. And then the airport came up with kind of a plan to build a road right through the center of it. And so obviously that upset a lot of people, and it felt kind of unnecessary for just to build a road. And so anyways, there was protests and other things like that, and you guys had covered it. I think somebody from WNIJ was on site a handful of times. Ultimately, the road got built, and there's still prairie remnant left there, but that's a big chunk. And just the fact that giant trucks are driving through now, blasting exhaust all over, it's kind of a shame. So there was, as we were working on the second album, Jennifer had already decided she wanted to be about a backyard species, like prairie species that are in our area, and to kind of help draw people that live in our area and help them recognize some things, that understand what they hear regularly. As the drama was unfolding on Bell Bowl, we thought this would be a great way to shed light on prairie lands and how the importance of preserving those and the species that live and travel through those lands. So that was kind of the basis of the Bell Bowl Prairie, and the birds selected. Obviously we aren't sitting there spotting them at Bell Bowl, but they're prairie, what we call backyard birds, and they're birds you hear, like the American robin. We hear that as like a North American staple. We hear it all the time. Or wood thrush and American goldfinch. These are all birds that we're kind of used to hearing. We just don't know what they are. So our hope is that the listener goes, I recognize that, and now you know what it is.
Is there a way people can get involved in either Sinisippi Audubon Society or any local conservation efforts that you know of to help Bell Bowl or any other things in the area like that?
Sure, that's a great question. First thing I would do is, I guess, depending on where you live, if you live, within the Rockford area or DeKalb area, you can reach out more locally. I've always been a fan of trying to help locally, as it's in your own backyard, right? You're helping the birds literally in your backyard and helping the species. But so I would look at the Mississippi Audubon website. You can reach out to places like Severson Dells, Nature Center, various entities like that, and we can even, of course, financial donations are great, but volunteering time is a huge deal, and they always need people to help clear brush and do things like that, and then you get to be out there in the field, which is pretty amazing too. But if you just want to understand more about it, the National Audubon website is a great place to go as well. And there's chapters of the Audubon all around the country. So, I don't know how far away people are listening to this, but if you're in Indiana, there's chapters there that you can work locally as well.
Another way you can show support and help is by buying a copy of Birdsongs Volume 1 and 2. Proceeds of the album benefit Mississippi Audubon and also the Natural Land Institute. So pick up a physical CD or some merch over on Micky Torpedo's Bandcamp page. We're hearing a live recording from Birdsongs Volume 2 at Severson Dells Nature Center and also talking with Micky Torpedo this hour. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with more music and more conversation here on Sessions from Studio A. Welcome back to Sessions from Studio A, where we are featuring Birdsongs Volume 2, the latest album from Rockford multi-instrumentalist and producer Micky Torpedo. It's a project that blurs the lines between ambient music, folk, and classical, and is raising awareness for local conservation and some endangered bird species here in our area. You can pick up a copy of Birdsongs Volume 2 over on Bandcamp. Proceeds of the album benefit Mississippi Audubon Society and Natural Land Institute. The next bird up on our set list, one that's not endangered, that you definitely have seen, probably have in your yard right now. This one is American Robin. We're hearing from Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs Volume 2, recorded live at Severson Dells Nature Center. I want to talk about some of the differences musically between the two albums. This one kind of has a different feel to me after the first listen. Almost felt more textural and ambient maybe than the first album. I don't know if maybe there's more woodwinds, it seems like, on this one. And a lot of live string players too. Talk about the musical differences between the two albums.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the season cycle series I released during the pandemic, that was all. I like putting myself in a creative box, and for that project, I released 4 albums, based on the seasons, and the creative box was all keyboard instruments. So it was like synthesizers, piano. So right from the beginning of the volume 1, I knew I wanted it to be natural instrumentation, so earthy wood sort of stuff. Acoustic guitar was prominent, violin, some piano, but still, not like running electric guitar or anything like that. And I tried to create the compositions based on that box. But for volume 2, I really wanted to expand out with kind of the same idea, except I wanted to expand out and focus more on woodwinds and brass. And so that for this second album, there's a lot of flutes, there's piccolo, there's strings, violin, I got cello, and what else? Clarinets, got a couple clarinet parts.
Couple French horns.
Some French horns, and so about probably more than half of the album is actually just comprised of compositions using those instruments specifically. I did use my acoustic guitar on one of the tracks, and then there's a piano on a couple other ones, but I really was that was the challenge for me to try and live within those instruments and create that way.
There's all these different musicians, like we mentioned. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, working with all these people. Did you write out all the parts, or were you ever bringing people in and having them improvise or play? Tell us a little bit about what that was like, the collaboration process.
Sure. So the first album, Heather Camacho appeared on violin, and there was more improvisational aspect of that. I had her come in for a few hours, and she just improvised, did maybe 4 or 5 passes over each song, and then I just glued everything and created melodies and harmonies out of what I was looking for from her takes. But this, for volume 2, right out of the gate, it was all me writing out charts. So I created the compositions just with using MIDI instrumentation, and then wrote out charts based on that, and then brought everybody in and gave them the charts, and worked with a lot of musicians I hadn't ever met before, which is also exciting. Another thing that was really cool about the second album that was kind of a conscious decision early on. As a music teacher, I work with a lot of youth musicians, actually musicians of all ages, but I love working with kids, and Jennifer and I agreed early on that we wanted to try and incorporate some youth musicians from the area. I mean, we got some strong youth musicians between the Music Academy, the Rockford Youth Orchestra, of course the Rock and Roll Institute, which I'm partial to. There's so many strong youth musicians, and sometimes what happens with kids is they don't have opportunities, they don't have interesting things going on. They go off to college or go get a job after they graduate, and all of a sudden they don't have time for their instrument anymore. Some of them go off and end up getting a degree in their instrument, which is fantastic, but that's pretty rare. So I love to see opportunities for them and maybe things that they could be proud of. And so Jennifer and I came to the agreement we would try and include youth musicians, and we also reached out to Rockford Area Arts Council, which helped fund part of this project. They provided a grant for us, which was wonderful. That was kind of based on the idea of including youth musicians. So after the music was created and I had the charts created, I started reaching out to youth musicians and started there with them and see what I could get to come in. And there's a couple musicians that did phenomenal. One particular, Jupiter Klonicky, she played violin on the recordings, but she also played live. And she's a great violinist. She's also a guitar student of mine. She's just all around awesome musician. So it was really cool to have that process in the recording side, but then I tried to bring in as many of them as I could in the live situation as well.
Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs Volume 2. That one was Eastern Towey. We're hearing a performance recorded live at Rockford's Severson Dells Nature Center. The perfect backdrop for this project, focusing on nature, conservation, and of course, the birds. You can pick up a copy of Birdsongs Volume 1 and 2 on Micky Torpedo's Bandcamp page. That's mickytorpedo.bandcamp.com. Proceeds of the album benefit Sinisippi Audubon and Natural Land Institute. Also find more from Micky Torpedo on social media. He's on Facebook and Instagram at Micky Torpedo. And we'll be right back with more music from that live performance. You're listening to Sessions from Studio A. Welcome back to Sessions from Studio A, featuring music from Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs Volume 2, Sounds of the Bell Bowl Prairie. We're hearing a performance recorded live at Severson Dells Nature Center. Let's get right back to that concert. Before we get into the music again, we'll hear from President of our chapter of the Sinisippi Audubon Society, Jennifer Kuroda, who collaborated with Micky Torpedo on this project.
So thanks everyone for coming out tonight. My name's Jennifer Kuroda. I'm with Sinisippi Audubon. I am the chapter president, and I'm also president of the Audubon Council of Illinois, which is all of our national Audubon chapters in the state. And as my time as president of these two organizations, there's many projects and initiatives that I'm proud to be part of, and that includes the Peregrine Falcon Nest Cam. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you are, super fun to watch. And I'm so happy that every year classrooms get added and schools are using the camera to watch in the classroom, and I just love that. I was involved with getting Colored Sands designated as an important bird area, which is super cool. And as part of the Audubon Council of Illinois, I spearheaded the Bird City, Illinois initiative, which is to get municipalities involved in bird-friendly activities and get recognized for them. And so far, we have 10 municipalities that have earned that designation. But there are two projects that I would consider my passion projects, or projects that I absolutely love working on, and it's the Audubon Mural Project and the Birdsongs Project with Micky. And I can't thank him enough for running with my wild idea, because I just took it to him, and I honestly didn't expect him to say yes, and he did, and it's just turned out beautiful. So thank you to all the musicians and everyone involved in making that happen. So, and one of the reasons I love the Mural Project and Birdsong so much is because it's the intersection of art and conservation. And I really believe that that has a much broader audience to bring the message of conservation to. And it's such an amazing way to deliver that message. And the goal of both projects is to bring awareness of birds that will be impacted by climate change, or they're climate threatened, and also their habitat is threatened. And as part of that awareness, I would hope that it initiates action. So ways that you can get involved. And on the back of the program, there are some ways listed that you can get involved. You can plant a bird-friendly garden using native plants. You can stop using pesticides, because when you use pesticides, a lot of our songbirds are insect-eating animals. So when they eat those insects that have been compromised with pesticides, it also kills the birds. You can donate to local conservation organizations like Severson Dells and the Natural Land Institute, who are also in the audience tonight, or Mississippi Audubon too. Don't forget about us. You can turn your outside lights off at night. Windows that are lit up are a huge threat to birds, and they will strike them. And lastly, if you cannot donate funds, you can donate your time. So I would encourage you to become a volunteer if you're not already one. Volunteers are always needed for habitat restoration, any kind of administration work, or helping with programs. So I would encourage you to do that. And I love all of the extra birds that wanted to be part of this tonight. You can hear them in the background. And I don't know if you noticed, during one song, there was a woodpecker that insisted on being percussion the entire time. So that was pretty awesome. So thank you again.
Like we mentioned, we're here at Underground Squirrel Studio. I wanted to ask a little bit about studio here, your setup. How long have you been at this location in this space?
At this particular location, I've been almost about 10 years now. And before this, I was 7 years at another location in Rockford. So been around a while.
And what made you want to start a recording studio?
Well, it started as a lesson studio, and I was a touring artist, played with lots of bands, and it was kind of the recording side really was more of just a pragmatic choice, which, you know, I had worked in a lot of studios over the years with various bands, and a lot of my friends were engineers, but they didn't live in the area, and I was kind of learning a little bit at a time from them. And after I was teaching lessons for a couple of years, it was like, well, lesson schedule, that was just kind of weeknights, and it would be nice to, you know, I've got the weekdays and I got the weekends, and I'm also writing my own music. I really should maybe expand out and use the space on those off times, and pretty much that started there.
You mentioned you do lessons out of the studio too. What are some other services you offer here at Underground Squirrel?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, lessons is the big one. That's a big chunk of my schedule, mostly just because that's the thing that fills up my schedule first. But but I teach a lot of different instruments, obviously voice, guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, that sort of thing, and some accordion, other random things, banjo, ukulele. But the other aspects of the studio is really using that information and using that knowledge to help other artists. So when I'm recording bands or working with bands, the majority of the time it's often people that write their songs, but they have no clue like where to go from that, or they aren't really a band, but they'd like to have a band. And they come in with their song, and then I'm looking at it from the bigger picture because that's where I love to live. And I will suggest arrangement changes or melody changes, chord changes, and then we'll piece together instrumentation based on what they're kind of looking for. And I'll do my best to interpret that. Sometimes people don't even have an understanding at all of how any instrument works other than their instrument, and even that sometimes is a little shaky. So I think they feel kind of clueless on where to even go with their song when they're recording it. So that's a lot of what I'm providing is kind of a bigger picture of how to bring it from just a skeleton of a song and fill it out, fill out the instrumentation, help it go where it needs to go, and make it something interesting and unique.
How can people get in touch with you and with Underground Squirrel to learn more about lessons or come in to record with you?
Sure. Undergroundsquirrelstudio.com is my website. You can find me there. Of course, social media. You find me most of those places, or as Micky Torpedo, which I don't do a whole lot of stuff on there. I kind of keep that more specific to my solo projects, but you can find me on any of those places. Unfortunately, my lesson schedule is I've already got kind of a waiting list to get in, so I can't really say that I'd suggest myself for lessons in the Rockford area. But like there's like Gazzardo Music, they are a great place to go for lessons. Randy's also Rick Zilhart, who was up at Paradise, awesome guitar player, and he's opening up a studio actually not far from mine, next to the Norwegian and the Norwegian Lofts. Cool. But yeah, if you want to reach out, or you want to check in there, or you want to hear what I'm doing, or just keep tabs, follow me on the social medias, and then on my website I've got different samples of artists I've worked with and projects I've worked on. And if you're a songwriter and you just want a set of ears or experiment, reach out.
On the website too, people can also pick up a copy of Birdsongs Volume 1 and 2.
Yes, absolutely. All my music is available for streaming, but of course make no money for that. So supporting the cause, you can go on the Underground Squirrel Studios website. There's a store button, but my store is Underground Squirrel Studio. I think it's Big Cartel. So if you Google those, I can't remember the exact website, but that's essentially my store link, and you can pick up any of my albums, the CDs. The Birdsong CDs. I also got some mugs with download cards, and the CDs and the mugs, they come with these Birdsong fact cards of all the species that we've been covering as part of the educational portion of this project. So there's all kinds of stuff on there. You can support the cause and support me.
It's really cool artwork too on those cards. Definitely people need to check that out over on the website. What's next for you, Micky? Is there going to be a Birdsong Volume 3, or are you on to the next project? What's coming up next for you?
There is definitely going to be a Birdsongs 3. Of course, this one took so long. We're kind of, Jennifer and I are kind of pausing communications for a bit, catching up with our life in other areas. But we both agreed to it, and I'm excited about it. We haven't really dug into the concept yet because this one just was recently released. But I'm looking forward to what she brings to the table, and she's the one that picks the species, and then I write the music based on that. So whenever she's ready, she'll come at me, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Well, people can find Volume 1 and 2 streaming everywhere, and people can pick up a copy over on your website. One more time, is that undergroundsquirrelstudio.com?
Yeah.
Undergroundsquirrelstudio.com. Micky Torpedo, thanks so much for talking with me today and letting me come check out the studio. Thanks.
Thank you for taking the time, Spencer.
Micky Torpedo's Birdsongs, recorded live at Severson Dells Nature Center. That one wraps up our show for this week. Thanks so much to Micky Torpedo for having us out to record the show, and a special thanks to Bill Houtkamp for running sound, Severson Dells Nature Center and Ann Wasser for having us out, and to Jennifer Kuroda, president of our chapter of the Sinisippi Audubon Society. Head over to mickytorpedo.bandcamp.com to pick up a copy of Birdsongs Volume 1 and 2. Proceeds of the album benefit Sinisippi Audubon and the Natural Land Institute. There's also some really cool merch on there you can check out, like those bird fact cards with the custom artwork and some stickers. You can also check out mickytorpedo.com for more from him, and to learn more about his studio, that's undergroundsquirrelstudio.com. Micky Torpedo is also on Facebook and Instagram at Micky Torpedo. Keep up with news from him on there. And you can check out behind-the-scenes video of the concert and this full episode over on WNIJ.org. If you'd like to be featured on our show, send us in a submission by emailing us with some music. The email is sessions@niu.edu. Sessions from Studio A is produced at WNIJ Studios on the campus of Northern Illinois University. Producers are myself and Mike Lundgren. I'm Spencer Tritt. Thanks for joining me this week. I'll see you next time on another edition of Sessions from Studio A.